Hello, hello, and welcome to From Impossible to Inevitable. I'm your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me today and pushing play on today's episode. This is going to be episode 82, which is really exciting. And I want to share with you a bit from a book that I just finished. The book is called 10x is Easier Than 2x. It's by Dan Sullivan with Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And I loved this book. It is primarily for entrepreneurs, or at least the intended audience is entrepreneurs. However, there is a lot in here for better living, for becoming a better person, for helping you along the journey. And so there is an idea in this book that I thought would be profoundly useful to everyone. So that includes you. And the idea here is called the gap and the gain. And it is a way of measuring yourself, honestly. It's a way of measuring your progress. It's a way of measuring your achievements and how you're doing. It's a way of measuring yourself. And I feel like we have a tendency to find ourselves in the gap. Now, here, let me tell you what the gap is. And I'm going to be reading several quotes from this book. So he says, the gap is a lens by which you measure what is against what could be. In the gap, you're measuring what is against what you believe should be. When you're in the gap, you're measuring yourself or your situation against an ideal. Think about that for a second. When you're in the gap, you're measuring yourself against what you think should have been. He says when you're in the gap, your past becomes a problem. It becomes a nightmare because your past isn't what it should have been. You're not where you should be as a person. So he compares this to, he says, you're measuring yourself against an ideal, and he compares this to the horizon. The horizon is the ideal or your goals or whatever it is, and you are always headed out towards the horizon. The horizon is great for giving you direction, for giving you, the way forward. But you can't measure yourself against the horizon, because every step you take, the horizon is still a step farther than where you were before. You never actually reach the horizon. You never actually get there. So even if you are at an ideal, someone else's ideal, you can see that there's so much more ahead of you. There's so much more progress you can make. There's so many more things you can do. There's so many more improvements. There's just more. There's always more. And when you're measuring yourself against that horizon, against that ideal, that ever-moving target, then you're going to be consistently dissatisfied with yourself. You're going to be dissatisfied with your progress. You're going to be dissatisfied with where you are in life or as a person, because you're measuring yourself against the ideal. And as we evolve, your ideal evolves, the horizon changes. There's always new goals. There's always new things. Like even the most high achievers, they don't just, some just sit back and relax and just call it good, but there are tons of high achievers that never ever retire because they see there's so much more they can do with their life. There's so much more of an impact they can make. There's so much more good that they can do in the world. And so they keep going. They keep going. Their horizon, their ideal, what they're chasing is ever moving, even though they've done so much. So can you imagine being a high achiever of this world and being completely dissatisfied because you're not where you should be? You haven't reached that ideal. You haven't reached that horizon. That sounds awful. And that's why there are so many high achievers who are also very dissatisfied with themselves and with their life, even though there are like millions of people who would love to be them or have their life or whatever it is, because that seems like the ideal for them. But they can see more. there's always more. He writes, the disturbing part of being in the gap, you've technically made progress, but you feel worse as a result because of the framing you've placed on that progress, measuring against what it should be. So measuring yourself against that horizon, against those ideals, is a losing battle because, like I said, there's always more. No matter how much you've accomplished, how great you have become, there's always forward movement that you can make. That's just the infiniteness of the world. There are always ideas, there are always projects, there are always people to help. There are always things, always. So having ideals, before we think about ideals as a bad thing to have or goals as a bad thing to have, because we're never going to actually get to that horizon point. Like I said, it's a great tool to give you direction, to know where to go, to have something you're moving towards consistently or moving towards at whatever pace you're moving towards them. It becomes destructive when you measure yourself against them. So he states the gap is reactive and external approach to measuring yourself and your experience. The gain is a proactive, creative, and internal approach to measuring yourself and your experiences. So what you do when you're in the gain, you're not measuring yourself by what the distance between you and your horizon. You're not measuring that gap. You're measuring yourself backwards. You're measuring yourself by where you came from. He says by measuring yourself backward, you're actually seeing and appreciating your progress, which is your own. By seeing and appreciating your progress, you feel enormously better and clearer on who you are and where you're at. He says the truth is you're making far more progress than it sometimes feels like. But the only way you can measure that progress, the only way you can see it, is by measuring yourself backward. So he says in the gain, you're anti-fragile. Everything happens for you, not to you. Every experience has something to offer. So in the gain, you're looking at your past, and instead of thinking, oh, I should have done this, I should have whatever this in the past, you're looking at what happened, the experience, and how you have become better and grown as a result of that. You see, okay, that is where I once was, and now I am here. And let's look at all of this that I have learned. Let's look at all of this that I have, all of this area of my life that I have traversed. And there's no way you can traverse all that area or go through all of those experiences or all of those situations without having gained something. You've gained wisdom, you've gained skills, you've gained experiences. You've grown as a result of whatever was in your past. So you're reframing everything in a way that you're looking for all of the golden nuggets of wisdom. What did we learn from this? How did I grow from this? Some days I wish that I had just popped out of school and jumped right into graphic design and didn't waste any time on anything else. And sometimes, that's a really tempting thing to think about. But the truth is, I have gained so much by all the different things that I have done and that I have tried. And I have so much experience from all of those things. I was talking to my youngest daughter's preschool teacher yesterday, and she was lamenting about something she couldn't find on the vast internet. She's like, is this too hard to ask for? And I was like, I can make that. I can create that. And I told her, and I have immense gratitude for this woman. She is so incredible. She is one of the most phenomenal people I know. And I told her, I looked at her and I was like, look, I have so many skills. And yes, my work on Illustrator are my favorite, but I have so many skills. I can do so many things. Let me do this for you. And even though it's not a project that like I would, I'll do it and it'll be great and it'll be fine. It's not my dream project, but that doesn't matter. I want to serve this woman who's given me so much and who has cared for my family so much that it's not even about the project itself. It's about giving her something that she searched this wide internet for and could not find. And I have the skills to do that. And what a great moment for me to be able to say, look, I can do this. I can do a great job with this. Allow me to serve you in this way. And if I had just popped out of school and gone straight to graphic design, I wouldn't have been able to do this project for her. I wouldn't have been able to serve her in that way. That would have been outside of my scope of skills. And I have spent so much time amassing skills and experiences and finding out what I like to design, what I like to create, what my preferences are. And so, sure, I could be in the gap and I could be like, well, I should be here. I should have already done this. I should have accomplished this, blah, blah, blah. Or I can look back and be like, none of that was wasted. Like it all adds to who I am and what I can do and my breadth of experience. It all plays a role. So he says that whatever you focus on expands. I think I've talked about that before. Actually, I know I have. Whatever you see, you create more of. Whatever you look for, you create more of. By focusing on the gains in your life, you'll begin to feel like you're always winning. And isn't that great? Isn't that a great feeling? You're just like, okay, well, this was maybe a negative, air quotes there, negative experience. And there's something I can gain from this. What can I learn from this? What can I take away and be like, I'm glad that happened because whatever. Because whatever. And it kind of makes this whole experience kind of like a treasure hunt because you're looking for the greatness in life. You're looking for those little moments in life. I have a neighbor who has chickens and they get out fairly often, at least once a week, if not more. And we just I got tired of texting her, being like, hey, your chickens are out. Is it okay if I toss them back in the backyard or whatever? I just, I went up to her and I was like, look, if it's okay with you, when your chickens are out, I'm just going to toss them in the backyard and go on with life. Like it's fine. And instead of being annoyed about her chickens, which I don't really care, I throw them in the backyard for her because I try to be a good neighbor. I don't care about her chickens running wild. I it's fun. Instead of being annoyed, I just take that opportunity to be like, you know what? This is fun. This is a fun thing that I don't get to do on an everyday basis, maybe a weekly basis, but not an everyday basis. And it's a fun thing. And it's so funny to me that I can just go grab a chicken and throw it in the backyard. It's no big deal. But it's so funny to me that I have friends that are just like, you just grabbed that chicken. And I'm like, yeah, you could do it too. I'm trying to remember exactly where I was going with this, but oh yeah, I'm not annoyed about it. I take that experience and I hold that chicken, I admire the feathers, and it's just like, oh, like this is such a beautiful part of nature and something that I don't get to enjoy all the time. And it just adds a little flavor to my day to be able to throw those chickens back in the backyard instead of being all grumbly that the chickens are loose again. Now, I'm sure she puts her chickens back more than I do, but it's so fun to have that opportunity to just be a good neighbor and to enjoy this experience of throwing chickens back in the backyard. So yeah, there's that. I don't think the chicken story tied in quite like I was expecting it to, but it's fine. It's a fun thing. Listen to this podcast and take something from it. um, so there you go. You can frame your experiences this way. This is a choice. You can choose to find all the negative things about all the negative things and all the negative things about all the positive things. And you have the choice of choosing to find all the positive things about all the positive things and savoring the positive things about. Wait, did I mess that up? Okay, start over. You can choose to find all the positive things about all the negative things and savoring all the positive things about the positive things in your life. That is a choice. It is a choice. Hands down, you get to choose how you see your experiences, how you see your progress, how you see your life. Even if a day, a week, a month, a year doesn't go how you wanted it to go, there's still something there for you. I was talking to a friend a couple of weeks ago. She was having a really hard time, and I was like, look, everything in nature has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. And even though we have these concrete jungles and we're surrounded by plastic, we are a part of nature and nothing is wasted. You know, the poop that an animal poops turns into fertilizer. A decaying animal, feeds bugs and turns into fertilizer and grows flowers and nurtures and, wildfires. All of these like seemingly negative things, poop, decaying animals, wildfires, they all have a purpose in nature that makes everything flourish. So yeah, we're going to have wildfires in our life, and you can walk around that destruction lamenting everything that burned, or you can focus on the new growth and know that all of that was so that everything could come back and flourish to a higher degree. And your life is just like that. You're going to have wildfires. You're going to have dead animals. You're going to have poop. And all of that, you can choose to let all of that enrich your life. You can choose to find the gems in it. You can choose to find what you learned in it. And you can choose to measure your progress in a way that serves you, in a way that you see how far you've come. You see all the good you've done. And I think that's pretty critical towards chasing any sort of goal or ideal, because yes, you're always going to fall short of the ideal. That's kind of a given. And you've always come so far than where you were before. So that's what I have for you today. There is a whole book that Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy have written called The Gap and the Gain. I haven't read it yet, but these like 5 or 10 pages in 10x is easier than 2x. The Gap and the Gain are so good that I can't wait to read the full book. So if you're interested in that little portion, there's a whole book you can go read. I recommend this book itself, so I'm sure I will recommend that book. We'll preemptively recommend it. And even if you hate it, you can find something in it that you can use, right? You can choose to be in the game. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you go and look for your wins. You look for the things you learn. You looked for your growth. You look for everything that's added to who you are, even if it's a result of a wildfire, because nothing is wasted unless you choose to waste it. And then that's on you. That's a choice. It's just how it is. All right. Thank you again for joining me today. I appreciate you. And yeah, until next time, bye for now.